The council chamber on Concordia Prime was massive. Representatives from 43 different species filled the curved seats that rose up like an ancient amphitheater. At the center podium stood Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth, her hands gripping the edges of the speaking platform. She was tired, so very tired. The Corfax Empire has violated our borders 17 times in the past 6 months, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. They have raided 3 mining colonies. They have taken prisoners. They have ignored every diplomatic protest we have filed. Around the chamber, various species shifted in their seats. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked bored. This was not new. The Corfax did what they wanted. Everyone knew this. Ambassador General Vraxis of the Corfax Empire stood. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark scales that reflected the chamber lights. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like thunder. "The human complains again," Vraxis said. He did not bother to hide his amusement. "Perhaps if your species was stronger, we would respect your borders. Perhaps if you defended yourselves instead of writing letters, we would take you seriously." Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her face calm. 50 years. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years, and this was always the same story. Councillor Teth of Venthar clicked his mandibles in distress. The insectoid representative had become a friend to humanity over the years. "The law is clear," Teth said, his translator rendering his clicks into standard galactic speech. "Border violations are prohibited. The Corfax must answer for these crimes." "Law," Vraxis scoffed. He spread his forearms wide. "The strong make law. The weak follow it. This is the way of the universe. Humanity hides behind rules because they are too afraid to fight." Sarah took a slow breath. She had given this speech before in different words, but always the same message. "We follow the law because we believe in it. We choose diplomacy because we have seen the alternative. We show restraint because you are weak," Vraxis interrupted. "Your military is small. Your ships follow outdated rules of engagement. You refuse to claim territory you could easily take. You are prey pretending to be predators. We follow rules of war because they matter," Sarah said quietly. "We have conventions, protocols, laws about how conflicts should be conducted. We do this for a reason." "Yes," Vraxis agreed, his tone mocking. "Because you are soft. Your species talks and talks and talks. You negotiate everything. You apologize for defending yourselves. You are a curiosity in this galaxy, nothing more. A species that somehow reached the stars despite being too gentle to survive." Sarah's hands were shaking now, not from fear, from something else. Something she kept buried deep down, something humanity had been burying for 5 decades. "We are not gentle," she said, and her voice had changed. It was quieter now, but somehow harder. "We are restrained. There is a difference." "Then show us this difference," Vraxis challenged. "Stop filing complaints. Stop requesting mediation. Defend yourselves, or admit that you cannot, and accept your place in the natural order." The chamber fell silent. Every species was watching now. Sarah looked around at them all. Some were carnivores, a species that hunted. Some were herbivores, species that ran. Some were scavengers, species that survived by being clever. Humanity was the only species that had been all 3 at different times in their history. "We will continue to follow the law," Sarah said finally. "We will continue to seek peaceful resolution. But I want to be very clear about something." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We follow your rules of war because we believe in them. But there are older rules we remember. Rules from before we reach the stars. Rules we hope never to use again." Vraxis laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. Empty threats from an empty species. The Corfax Empire does not fear human words. The session ended soon after. Sarah returned to the human delegation quarters where Captain Marcus Webb was waiting. He commanded the human dreadnought Doctrine of Restraint, currently docked at Concordia Prime for resupply. "I watched the session," Webb said. He was a career military officer, broad-shouldered and gray-haired. "He's not going to stop, Ambassador. They're going to keep pushing until we push back." "I know," Sarah said. She poured herself a drink, something from Earth, whiskey. "Old and expensive, but we have to try. We have to keep trying, because if we stop trying—" She didn't finish the sentence. Webb understood. He had read the classified histories. He knew what humanity was capable of when the rules came off. Every military officer above a certain rank knew. It was required reading, a reminder of what they were sworn to prevent. "How long do you think we have?" Webb asked. Sarah looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, humanity's birthplace, a planet that had seen more war in its history than any other species in the galaxy could imagine. "I don't know," she admitted. "But Marcus, when it happens, and it will happen, you need to follow your orders, no matter what they are." 3 days later it happened. New Shanghai was a colony world established 30 years ago. It had 4 million human inhabitants, families, children. It was known for its universities, its art galleries, its peaceful way of life. It had minimal military defenses because humanity believed in showing good faith to the galaxy. The Corfax fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above New Shanghai. 50 warships, not a raiding party. An invasion force, Vraxis himself led the attack. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every species in the galaxy could watch. "This is what happens to species that hide behind words." His voice boomed across space. "This is what happens when you refuse to acknowledge strength. Watch, Galaxy. Watch what happens to the weak." The orbital bombardment began. New Shanghai's shields held for 17 minutes. They were civilian shields designed to protect against solar radiation and small asteroids, not against military-grade plasma cannons. When the shields failed, the real horror began. Vraxis did not target military installations. There were barely any to target. He targeted cities, hospitals, schools. He broadcast it all, narrating like it was a sporting event. The evacuation ships that launched were shot down. The emergency bunkers were hit with precision strikes. This was not war. This was extermination, carried out methodically and publicly. On Earth, in the emergency command center deep beneath Geneva, the entire Human Defense Coalition watched in silence. Presidents, prime ministers, military commanders, intelligence directors. They watched their people die in real time. No one spoke. No one moved. They just watched. When the death toll reached 2 million, the Secretary General called for the vote. Still no one had spoken. Words seemed inadequate, obscene even. "Resolution 347, the Secretary General said, his voice hollow. "All treaties limiting human military doctrine are hereby suspended. Full wartime authority is granted. Rules of engagement are lifted. Geneva Conventions no longer apply to non-human combatants who have committed crimes against humanity." All in favor? Every hand rose. Every single one. No debate, no discussion. It was the fastest vote in the coalition's history. "Passed unanimously," the Secretary General said. He looked older suddenly. Decades older than he had minutes ago. "God have mercy on us all. Recall all diplomatic staff. Recall all civilian vessels. Bring everyone home." Across the galaxy, human ambassadors received their orders. Sarah Chen sat in her quarters on Concordia Prime, reading the message on her tablet. Her hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. She began to pack. A junior diplomat knocked on her door, confused. "Ambassador, we're leaving, but we haven't issued a formal protest yet. We haven't requested an emergency session. We need to—" "We're going home," Sarah said quietly. "All of us. Every human in galactic space is coming home. But why? The Council needs to hear our response. We need to—" "The Council will hear our response," Sarah said. She looked at the young woman, this idealist who still believed words could solve everything. Sarah had been like that once, 50 years ago, just not in words. Not anymore. The evacuation was complete within 48 hours. Every human diplomat, every human trader, every human scientist and student and tourist. They all came home. Ships poured through the jump gates heading back to human space. The galaxy interpreted this as surrender. Humanity was running, hiding, going home to mourn and accept defeat. Vraxis held a celebration on his flagship. He had proven his point. Humanity was weak. The galaxy would remember this lesson. But in the classified military bases hidden throughout human space, other preparations were beginning. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels switched production. Factories retooled overnight. Warehouses opened that had been sealed for 50 years. And in orbit around Earth, Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of his ship. Engineers were working around him, removing safety protocols, unlocking weapon systems that had been deliberately disabled. A technician brought him a new nameplate for the ship. Webb held it in his hands, reading the new name. Not doctrine of restraint anymore. Now it read, Retribution. How long until we're ready? Webb asked. 2 weeks for the first battle group, his executive officer replied. 1 month for full deployment. Webb nodded. He looked out at Earth, that small blue marble that had birthed a spee. 3 weeks had passed since New Shanghai burned. The Corfax Empire was celebrating. Vraxis had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Conquest. 12 human colony worlds now flew Corfax flags. Occupation forces had landed on each one, expecting resistance that never came. The humans had simply left, evacuated their colonies and retreated deeper into their own territory. To the galaxy it looked like surrender. To Vraxis it looked like victory. He stood in the throne room of Emperor Shaxthal accepting medals and honors. Around him, other Corfax commanders celebrated. They had already begun dividing up human territory, arguing over who would govern which conquered worlds. The humans were even weaker than we thought, one general said, drinking deeply from a ceremonial cup. They ran without firing a shot. Their reputation was always strange, another added. All that talk of diplomacy and law, now we see it was just cowardice dressed in fancy words. Vraxis smiled, his yellow eyes gleaming. He had proven what everyone suspected. Humanity was a mistake, a species that survived through luck rather than strength. Now the galaxy would respect only the strong, as it should be. On Proxima 4, a human colony world now under Corfax occupation, Commander Thralax of the Occupation Force sent his daily report. Everything was secure. The humans had left behind infrastructure, food stores, and even some equipment. It was the easiest occupation he had ever commanded. They abandoned everything, he told his officers, not even a booby trap. These humans truly are sheep. His sensor officer looked up from his station. Sir, we're detecting something at the edge of the system. Probably more human refugees, Thralax said dismissively. Let them run. No, sir, the officer said, and now his voice had changed. It's not refugees. I don't understand these readings. Sir, I'm counting hundreds of ships. Thralax moved to the sensor station. The screen showed the edge of the Proxima system. Ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel. Not a few ships. Not dozens, hundreds, that's impossible, Thralax said. Intelligence reported humanity has only 200 military vessels. This is over 1,000 ships, the communications officer suddenly shouted. Sir, we're being hailed. It's on all frequencies. A human voice filled every speaker in the command center. It was calm, cold, final. Corfax occupation forces on Proxima 4. You have exactly 1 hour to evacuate. Leave the planet. Leave the system. Go back to your empire and tell them what's coming. Thralax laughed, but it sounded forced even to his own ears. This is Corfax territory now. We do not take orders from prey species. The voice interrupted him. You murdered 4 million human civilians. You broadcasted across the galaxy. You wanted to teach everyone a lesson about strength. There was a pause. Now we're going to teach you one. You have 59 minutes. The transmission ended. Thralax stared at the sensor readings. The human fleet was advancing. Not quickly, but steadily. Like they had all the time in the world. Contact the fleet, Thralax ordered. Tell them we need reinforcements. Tell them, sir, the sensor officer said quietly. The fleet isn't responding. Any of them. Every Corfax ship in this system has gone silent. That's impossible. We have 60 warships in orbit. They can't all. The view screen flickered and changed. It now showed orbital space above Proxima 4. The 60 Corfax warships were still there. But they were dark. Dead in space, drifting. What did they do? Someone whispered. Thralax made his decision quickly. He was a warrior, yes, but not a fool. Full evacuation. Everyone on the transport ships now. The Corfax forces fled Proxima 4 in 42 minutes. Their transport ships burned their engines to maximum, racing for the jump point that would take them back to Corfax space. Behind them, the human fleet entered orbit around Proxima 4. Then the bombardment began, but they were not targeting the planet. They were targeting everything the Corfax had left behind, military equipment, supplies, buildings the Corfax had claimed. For 6 hours, the humans methodically destroyed every trace of Corfax occupation, and they broadcast it all. Just like Vraxis had broadcast New Shanghai, the message was clear. This is our world. You do not get to keep it. On Concordia Prime, the Galactic Council watched the footage in stunned silence. Counselor Teth's antennae were trembling. Where did those ships come from? Our intelligence said humanity had a small fleet. They lied, someone said. They've been hiding their true strength. No, Teth said slowly. He had been studying human history for weeks now, trying to understand his friends. They did not lie. We never asked the right questions. We asked how many warships they had operating under galactic law. They told us the truth. We never asked how many ships they could build if they ignored those laws. The administrator of the council, a tall crystalline being named Korath, finally found his voice. This is unprecedented. We must demand explanations. The main view screen activated. A human face appeared. Not Ambassador Chen, someone else, a woman in military uniform. I am Admiral Rebecca Chen, commander of the Human Defense Coalition's First Fleet. You are familiar with my sister, Sarah, who served as your ambassador. Her face was hard. She tried to warn you. You did not listen. So now you will hear from us instead. Korath tried to speak. Admiral, the council must protest this. The council will be silent, Admiral Chen said, and her voice made it clear this was not a suggestion. For 50 years, humanity followed your laws. We limited our military. We showed restraint. We chose diplomacy. And what did that get us? 17 border violations, 3 raids, 4 million dead civilians. The Corfax will be punished, Korath said. We will impose sanctions. You will do nothing, Admiral Chen said. Because you have done nothing. The Corfax violated our territory 17 times. You held meetings. They raided our colonies. You wrote reports. They murdered our children on live broadcast and you asked for patience. She leaned forward, her eyes burning. Well, our patience is gone. We are done asking you for justice. We will take it ourselves. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Species shouting at each other. Some demanding action. Others demanding neutrality. Fear spreading like wildfire. Only Councillor Teth sat quietly, his antennae drooping. He understood now. He had read about Pearl Harbor, about 9/11, about every moment in human history when someone had pushed them too far. The pattern was always the same. Humanity tried peace. Then someone made peace impossible. Then came the storm. In Korthak's space, Emperor Shaxthal received the reports with disbelief. Proxima Eifir taken. The occupation force routed without a fight. 60 warships disabled by some kind of weapon the humans were not supposed to have. This is a minor setback, Fraxis assured him. They caught us by surprise. Now we know they have been hiding ships. We will adapt. The next report came in. Then another. Then another. Human fleets were attacking all 12 occupied colonies simultaneously. Not just attacking, crushing. The Korthax forces were retreating from every world. How is this possible? Shaxthal demanded. Where are these fleets coming from? His intelligence minister pulled up star charts. Our scouts have detected something. The 43 colonies humanity reported to the council. They have more, many more. Hidden colonies. Secret shipyards. Industrial worlds that were never registered. How many more? Shaxthal asked. At least 40 additional colonies, Majesty. Possibly more. They have been building in secret for decades. Fraxis felt something unfamiliar, something he had not felt in his long career of conquest. Fear. They were planning this, he said quietly. All along. All that talk of peace, all that diplomacy, they were preparing for war the entire time. No, the intelligence minister said. According to our analysis, these facilities were built as contingencies, emergency responses. They hoped never to use them, but they prepared anyway. Shaxthal stood from his throne. Send word to all fleets, full mobilization. If humanity wants war, we will give them war. We are the Korthax Empire. We have conquered for 3,000 years. We will not be defeated by prey species who write laws. But even as he spoke, another report came in. A human fleet had been detected at the edge of the Vraxis Belt, the site of a major Korthax military base. Not attacking yet. Just waiting. The base commander sent a message demanding they withdraw. The human response was simple. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you attack the weak. Now we're showing the galaxy what happens when you attack us. This ends when your empire no longer exists. The Battle of Vraxis Belt began 3 hours later. The Korthax had 600 warships. The humans had 300. The Korthax had superior numbers, better armor, more powerful weapons. The humans won anyway. They used tactics the Korthax had never seen. Coordinated drone swarms that overwhelmed defensive systems. Kinetic weapons that ignored shields. Small ships packed with explosives that flew straight into Corfax vessels, their crews screaming war cries as they died, and they did not stop. When their ships were damaged, they kept fighting. When they lost life support, they kept fighting. When they had no ammunition left, they rammed. The Corfax lost 400 ships. The humans lost 107, but those 107 took 4 times their number with them. When the battle ended, the human fleet broadcast a single message to every remaining Corfax vessel. Run. Tell your empire what you saw here. Tell them this is just the 6 months into the war. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched another Corfax colony burn. Not with nuclear fire, not with planet-killing weapons, but with something more methodical, more terrible. The humans had arrived 3 days ago. First came the bombardment from orbit, targeting every military installation, every communications array, every power plant. Then came the soldiers, wave after wave of human marines, landing in drop pods that screamed through the atmosphere like falling meteors. The Corfax defenders were larger, stronger, bred for combat, but the humans fought like they had done this 1,000 times before. Because they had. Not against aliens. Against each other, they used tactics from battles with names the Corfax had never heard. Stalingrad, Fallujah, Normandy. They advanced through cities using techniques perfected in 100 wars across human history, small unit tactics, coordinated strikes, artillery that fell with precision. And always they kept coming, sir, his communications officer said. The ground commander reports the capital is secure. Corfax forces are retreating to the mountains. Let them go, Webb said. His voice was tired. He had been fighting for 6 months without a break. We're not here to hunt them down. We're here to take back what's ours and destroy their ability to wage war. He looked at the tactical display. 12 human colonies retaken, 8 Corfax colonies occupied. 20 major fleet engagements, all victories. The humans were winning. But Webb felt no pride. Only a deep, hollow exhaustion. Status on Operation Nightfall? Ready to deploy, sir. Targets locked. Webb closed his eyes briefly. Operation Nightfall, the plan that kept him awake at night. 3 Corfax industrial worlds producing ships and weapons. The plan was to destroy them. Not just the factories, everything, the infrastructure, the power grids, the transportation networks. Leave them decades behind in development. It was total war. The kind of war humanity had waged against itself and sworn never to wage again. Execute, Webb ordered. Across 3 star systems, human strike groups launched their attack. Not against armies. Against civilization itself. They were careful. They targeted the evacuation zones last, giving civilians time to flee. But everything else was fair game. The galaxy watched in horror. On Concordia Prime, the Galactic Council held yet another emergency session. This is barbaric, the Zephrani representative declared. He was a warrior species himself, proud of their military traditions. But even he was shaken. They are destroying entire worlds. They gave warning, Counselor Teth said quietly. 24 hours notice, broadcast on all frequencies. Civilians were evacuated. This is more mercy than the Corfax showed New Shanghai. Mercy? The Zephrani snapped. They are erasing Corfax civilization. Yes, Teth agreed. That is exactly what they are doing. Because the Corfax tried to erase theirs first. The administrator, Quorith, tried to restore order. The council must intervene. We must demand both sides cease hostilities. We must. The view screen activated again. Another human face. Not Admiral Chen this time. A man in civilian clothes. Older, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen too much. I am Secretary General Liu of Earth. I understand the Council wishes to intervene in our conflict with the Corfax Empire. Yes, Quorith said quickly. This war has gone too far. The destruction is unprecedented. You must agree to a ceasefire. We can mediate, find a peaceful... No, Liu said simply. The chamber fell silent. But you must, Quorith said. The Galactic Conventions require... The Galactic Conventions failed, Liu interrupted. We followed them. The Corfax violated them. We asked you to enforce them. You refused. So now we follow different rules. Older rules. He leaned forward. For 50 years, humanity tried to be part of your civilized galaxy. We limited ourselves. We showed restraint. We believed in law and order and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. And you know what? We still believe in those things. But we also believe in justice, and since you will not provide it, we will. This is madness, the Zephrani representative said. You cannot win. The Corfax Empire has thousands of systems, billions of soldiers. You are one species. Liu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. One species that has been fighting wars since before we had written language. One species that invented the word genocide because we needed a word for what we kept doing to each other. One species that split the atom and immediately used it to erase 2 cities. He paused, letting that sink in. You want to know if we can win? Wrong question. The question is, can the Corfax survive long enough to surrender? The transmission ended. The council erupted in argument again. But in the back of the chamber, Councillor Teth sat silent. He had spent months studying human history now. Every war, every battle, every terrible thing they had done to each other, and he understood. The humans were not being cruel. They were being efficient. This was how they fought. This was what war meant to them. Not honor, not glory. Victory. Complete. Total. Final. On the Corfax homeworld, Emperor Shaxthal received report after report of disaster. His empire was not losing. It was being dismantled, piece by piece. World by world, Vraxis stood before him, no longer proud, no longer confident. We must negotiate, he said, words he had never thought he would speak. We must sue for peace. On what terms? Shaxthal demanded. They have made their position clear. They will accept nothing less than our complete destruction. Then we fight to the last, Vraxis said, but even he sounded uncertain. A messenger burst into the throne room. Majesty, the humans have deployed something new, a weapon. Our scientists do not understand it. It disabled an entire battle fleet without firing a shot. Shut down every system. The ships are drifting, crews still alive but helpless. Magic? Shaxthal said mockingly. No, Majesty. Technology. Our analysts believe it is some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon, but more advanced than anything we have encountered. They are calling it the deterrent. Shaxthal felt cold. What else? They are moving it toward our inner colonies, toward... Majesty, long-range sensors suggest they are bringing it here, to the homeworld. Panic seized Shaxthal. Mobilize every ship, every defense platform. They cannot be allowed to... It is already in position, the messenger whispered. It arrived 3 hours ago. We did not detect it until it powered up. On the human fleet flagship, Admiral Rebecca Chen watched the Corfax homeworld on her main screen, the planet where 5 billion Corfax lived, the heart of their empire. The deterrent was in position, a massive satellite that could allegedly disable every electronic system on the planet below. Her finger hovered over the activation button. Admiral, her executive officer said softly, we have firing solution. All systems ready. On your order. Admiral Chen had spent 3 decades in service. She had commanded fleets in peacetime, exploring unknown systems, making first contact with new species. She had never wanted war. None of them had. Broadcast on all Corfax frequencies, she ordered. The communications officer nodded. Channel open. People of the Corfax Empire, Admiral Chen said. This is Admiral Rebecca Chen of the Human Defense Coalition. For 6 months we have fought. For 6 months we have shown you what war means to humanity. You came to our homes. You killed our children. You broadcast it as entertainment. She paused, gathering herself. Now we are here, at your homeworld, with the power to do to you what you did to us, to turn your world dark, to destroy your civilization, to teach you the lesson you wanted to teach us. Down on the planet, billions of Corfax watched and listened, in bunkers, in homes, in shelters, waiting for the end. But we are not you. Admiral Chen continued. We do not murder civilians. We do not target children. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to deliver terms of surrender. In the throne room, Emperor Shaxthal could not believe what he was hearing. You will demilitarize completely, Admiral Chen said. You will stand trial for war crimes. You will pay reparations. You will help rebuild New Shanghai with your own hands. And you will learn. Learn what you did. Learn why it was wrong. Learn to be better. She leaned back in her chair. Or we will activate the deterrent. We will shut down your world, and we will leave you in darkness for a generation. The choice is yours. You have 1 hour. The transmission ended. On the human ships, the crews waited. Many were relieved. Some were disappointed. All were exhausted. Marcus Webb, watching from the retribution, understood. This was the test. Not whether humanity could win. Whether they could stop. Whether they could show mercy after everything they had endured. 57 minutes later, Emperor Shaxthal sent his response. One word: surrender. The war was over. Humanity had won. But as Webb looked at his reflection in the viewport, at the tired face of a man who had ordered strikes that killed millions, he wondered, at what cost? They had proven they could fight. Proven they could win. Proven they were not weak. But had they proven they were still good? That question would haunt him for the rest of his life. 2 weeks after the surrender, Counselor Teth of Venthar stood before the Galactic Council and did something unprecedented. He asked permission to teach them. For months, Teth said, his mandibles clicking nervously, we have watched humanity wage war. We have been horrified, confused. We have asked ourselves, how can a species that speaks so much of peace be so skilled at violence? He activated the main view screen. I have spent this time studying human history. What I found terrifies me, and you need to see it too. The screen filled with images. Ancient humans fighting with stones and spears, then bronze weapons, iron swords, gunpowder, cannons, machine guns, tanks, aircraft, nuclear weapons. Humanity has been at war for their entire existence, Teth explained. Not occasionally, constantly. In their recorded history alone, over 10,000 years, they have fought over 15,000 wars. Major wars. This does not count small conflicts, civil wars, or skirmishes. The Council watched in silence. Image after image of human warfare. Battlefields covered with bodies. Cities destroyed. Weapons of increasing sophistication and horror. They invented the Geneva Conventions, Teth continued, not to protect their enemies, but to protect themselves from themselves, because they scared themselves with what they were capable of doing. He showed them World War I, trenches filled with mud and blood, poison gas rolling across battlefields, 16 million dead. And then, Teth said quietly, they did it again. Bigger. Worse. World War II. 85 million dead. Concentration camps. Firebombing of cities. And finally, the mushroom clouds over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They split the atom, Teth said, the building block of matter itself. And within 2 years they used it to erase 2 cities. And they were ready to do it again. And again. Until their enemy surrendered. The Zafrani representative, a warrior himself, looked ill. This is madness. Why would any species do this to themselves? Because they are very good at killing, Teth said. It is their specialty. They are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the smartest, but they are the best at organized violence. They have been practicing for thousands of years. He changed the image. Now it showed human soldiers in modern gear, fighting in the Corfax War. And this is them holding back. This is them showing mercy, because they have rules now, laws they created to limit themselves. The Geneva Conventions, rules of war, international law. The chamber was silent. Every representative was staring at the screen. We thought they were weak because they followed these rules, Teth said. We were wrong. They follow these rules because they know what happens when they do not. They have seen it. They have lived it. They have died in it billions of times. He turned to face the council directly. The Corfax made them break their own rules, made them remember what they were before they had rules, and now we are all paying the price for that mistake. On Earth, in a hospital in Geneva, former Ambassador Sarah Chen visited the wounded, soldiers returning from the war, some missing limbs, some missing more than that, staring at walls with empty eyes. She sat beside a young Marine named Rodriguez. He had been at the Battle of Corfax Prime. He was 23 years old and looked 50. We won, Rodriguez said. But it was not a celebration. It was a question. Yes, Sarah said. We won. Then why do I feel like this, he asked. Why do I see their faces when I close my eyes? Why can't I sleep? Sarah had no answer. Or rather, she had too many answers. Because humans had been asking that question for thousands of years. Every soldier in every war came home with the same ghosts. Because winning is not the same as being right, she finally said. And because you are still human. Still capable of feeling. That is how I know we have not become monsters. Monsters do not regret. She visited dozens more. Some were grateful she came. Some turned away, not wanting to see any reminders of the diplomatic service that had failed to prevent the war. She did not blame them. That evening, she recorded a message. It would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. I am Sarah Chen. I was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 12 years. I believed in peace. I believed in diplomacy. I believed that words could solve any problem if we just tried hard enough. She looked directly into the camera. I was wrong. Not because peace is impossible, but because peace requires everyone to want it. The Corfax did not want peace. They wanted dominance. And when you face someone who will not choose peace, you must choose survival. Her hands were folded in her lap, steady now. Humanity tried to show you a better way. We limited ourselves. We followed your laws. We showed restraint even when attacked. We did this because we knew what we were capable of. We knew what happened when we did not restrain ourselves. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We have a phrase, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The Corfax did not learn from history. They did not even know our history. So they repeated it. They thought they were teaching us a lesson. Instead, they forced us to teach them one. The camera zoomed in slightly. This is what I want the galaxy to understand. Humanity did not enjoy this war. We did not celebrate our victories. We mourned them. Because we know the cost. We know what war does to everyone involved, winners and losers alike. Her voice became harder. But we also know that there are worse things than war. Tyranny, genocide, slavery. The Corfax would have enslaved us if we let them. So we did not let them. We fought, we won, and now we grieve for what we had to do to win. She stood and the camera pulled back. To every species watching this, humanity would prefer peace. We would prefer law. We would prefer diplomacy. But we will never again allow our preference for peace to become a weakness you can exploit. We have shown you what happens when you push us too far. We hope never to show you again. The message ended. It was played on every news channel in the galaxy. Some species were horrified. Some were reassured. All were more careful in their dealings with humanity after that. On the Corfax homeworld, Vraxis stood in chains before a war crimes tribunal. Human judges, Venthari judges, and even some Corfax judges who had opposed the war. The trial was broadcast live. You are charged with crimes against sapient species, the lead judge said. The deliberate targeting of civilians. The destruction of New Shanghai. 4 million counts of murder. How do you plead? Vraxis looked at the judges, then at the gallery, filled with survivors from New Shanghai. Humans who had lost families. Children who had lost parents. Parents who had lost children. Guilty, he said quietly. The gallery erupted, some shouting for his death, some weeping. The judges called for order. You understand the penalty? The judge asked. I understand I deserve death, Vraxis said. I ask only that it be quick. That you show me the mercy I did not show others. The judge looked at him for a long moment. That is not your sentence. You will not die. You will live. You will be sent to New Shanghai, and you will help rebuild it. You will spend the rest of your life in service to the people you harmed. You will see their faces every day. You will help them heal, and you will remember what you did. Every single day, Vraxis stared, stunned. That is worse than death. Yes, the judge agreed. That is the point. You wanted to destroy hope. Now you will help restore it. You wanted to show the galaxy that might makes right. Now you will show them that justice exists even in war. In the gallery, a woman stood. She had lost her husband and both children at New Shanghai. She looked at Vraxis with eyes full of pain. I want you to live, she said, her voice shaking. I want you to understand what you took from us. I want you to spend every day knowing that we survived anyway. That you failed. Vraxis was led away, and Marcus Webb, watching from the observation gallery, felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet, maybe never. But something like hope. Humanity had proven they could fight. Proven they could win. And now, perhaps, they were proving they could be better than their worst instincts. It was not much. But it was a start. The galaxy was watching, learning. Understanding that humanity's greatest strength was not their capacity for violence. It was their capacity for mercy. Even when they had every reason not to show it, that was what made them truly dangerous. Because it meant they could stop and choose a different path, even after everything. 5 years after the war ended, New Shanghai rose from its ashes. The city did not look the same. It could not. Too much had been destroyed. But it lived again, rebuilt by hands both human and Corfax. Fraxus carried steel beams on his broad shoulders, working alongside the species he had tried to exterminate. The humans did not speak to him much. Some spat when he walked past. Others ignored him completely. A few, the ones who frightened him most, looked at him with something like pity. He had been doing this for 5 years. Every day he woke in a small cell. Every day he worked on the reconstruction. Every day he saw what he had destroyed coming back to life despite him. One morning a human child threw a rock at him. It hit his shoulder, bounced off harmlessly. He turned to see a girl, maybe 8 years old, tears streaming down her face. "You killed my parents," she said. Fraxus had no answer. What could he say? He had. He absolutely had. He knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening. "I did, and I'm sorry. And I know those words are not enough." "They will never be enough." "Then why say them?" the girl demanded. "Because they are all I have," Fraxus said quietly. "I cannot undo what I did. I can only try to build something better. It will not bring your parents back. Nothing will. But maybe it means their deaths were not the end of everything." The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked away. But she did not throw another rock. It was not forgiveness. Fraxus knew he did not deserve forgiveness. But it was something. A tiny crack in the wall of hate, and he would take it. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council had changed. The chamber looked the same, but everything else was different. New protocols, new laws, and a new enforcement mechanism. The Human Defense Coalition now maintained a permanent fleet in galactic space. Not to conquer. To enforce. Ambassador Sarah Chen, returned to her post at her own request, explained it to the Council. "For 50 years we believed in the law. We still believe in the law. But belief is not enough. Law without enforcement is just wishes written on paper." She stood at the central podium, the same place where she had once begged for help that never came. "So here are the new rules. They are simple. Do not attack civilian populations. Do not commit genocide. Do not ignore the Council's judgments. Do not start wars of conquest." The Zephrani representative shifted uncomfortably. "And if someone breaks these rules?" "Then we enforce them," Sarah said simply. "Not with diplomacy. Not with sanctions. With the same force we used against the Corfax, quickly, decisively, completely." "You are making yourselves the galaxy's police," someone objected. "No," Sarah corrected. "We are making ourselves the galaxy's reminder. A reminder of what happens when law fails. Most of you will never need that reminder. You are good people, good species who want peace. But for those who think might makes right." She paused. "We will teach them otherwise." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative. "We do not want this role. We would prefer a galaxy that polices itself. But we have learned that hope is not a strategy. So we will stand ready, always watching, always prepared, praying we never need to act again, but ready if we must." The vote was taken. The new council structure passed almost unanimously. Only 2 species voted against it. Both were known for aggressive expansion policies. Both suddenly became much more peaceful after the vote. Marcus Webb retired from the military. He did not celebrate his retirement. He did not give speeches. He simply left, going to a small university on a colony world to teach. His first lecture was to a classroom of young people, human and alien alike, who wanted to study military history. They expected glory stories. They expected to learn about tactics and strategy and winning. Instead, Webb showed them footage of New Shanghai, then footage of the war, then footage of the aftermath. Wounded soldiers. Orphaned children. Destroyed worlds. This is war, he said. Not the sanitized version. Not the heroic version. This is what it looks like. This is what it costs. A young human cadet raised his hand. "But sir, we won. We saved humanity." "We survived," Webb corrected. "That is not the same as winning. Winning would have been if this never happened. Winning would have been if diplomacy worked. We did not win. We just refused to lose. There is a difference." He turned off the screen. The classroom was silent. "I am going to teach you everything I know about war," Webb continued. "Every tactic. Every strategy. Every lesson humanity learned in 10,000 years of killing each other and then killing others. And do you know why?" No one answered. "So that you know how to win. But more importantly, so that you know what war costs. So that you will do everything possible to avoid it. So that war is your last option, not your first. He looked at each student. Anyone can start a war. It takes no skill, no intelligence, just anger and weapons. But it takes wisdom to prevent war. It takes courage to choose peace when violence is easier. That is what I want to teach you. Not how to fight. But why fighting should terrify you? One student, Aventhari, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. But if war terrifies us, will we not be weak? No, Webb said. Fear of war makes you careful. It makes you think. It makes you exhaust every other option first. The Corfax did not fear war. They saw it as natural, even glorious, and they lost everything because of it. He smiled slightly. Humanity fears war. We fear it because we are very, very good at it. And we know what happens when we are allowed to be good at it. That fear keeps us civilized. Never forget that. On Concordia Prime, in a quiet garden outside the council chamber, Counselor Teth sat with Sarah Chen. They had become close friends during the war, bonded by their shared understanding that sometimes being right meant being alone. Do you think it will last? Teth asked. This peace? Sarah watched alien children playing in the garden. Human children playing with them. 5 years ago, this would have been unthinkable. Now it was normal. I think it will last as long as everyone remembers, she said. The galaxy needs to remember what happened. Not to hold grudges, but to understand what is at stake. And when they forget? Teth asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then we remind them. Gently, if we can. Firmly, if we must. We show them New Shanghai rebuilt. We show them Corfax criminals working to repair what they destroyed. We show them that there are consequences for breaking the peace. Some species say humanity has become tyrants, Teth observed. Maybe, Sarah admitted. That is our burden to bear. We would rather be called tyrants than watch another New Shanghai burn. We would rather be feared than allow genocide to go unpunished. She turned to her friend. But we will never become what we fought. We will enforce the law, but we will not break it ourselves. We will use force when necessary, but we will never use it for conquest. That is the line we cannot cross. The moment we cross it, we become the Corfax. Teth's antennae quivered in agreement. Then I am glad you are the ones holding this power. Any other species and I would fear for the galaxy. But humanity fears for itself. That makes you trustworthy. A new ship arrived at Concordia Prime that afternoon. A young species recently developed faster-than-light travel, requesting membership in the Galactic Council. They called themselves the Draxel, and they swaggered into the council chamber with confidence. Their ambassador was young, aggressive, full of pride in his species' military accomplishments. We have conquered 17 worlds in our home cluster, he announced. We have perfected warfare. We are ready to take our place among the great powers of the galaxy. The council chamber went very, very quiet. Sarah Chen activated the view screen without saying a word. Footage began to play. The war, the battles, the costs, everything. The Draxel ambassador watched, his confidence slowly draining away. His skin, which had been bright red with pride, faded to pale orange. When the footage ended, Sarah spoke. That is humanity. We tried to be peaceful. Someone made peace impossible. This is what happened. Every death, every destroyed world, every atrocity, all of it broadcast so that everyone can see. She stood and walked toward the Draxel ambassador. You say you have perfected warfare. You have not. You are children playing with weapons you do not understand. Humanity has been fighting wars since before we had fire. We have killed more of ourselves than any enemy ever could. We have made weapons that could sterilize planets, and we learned to control ourselves, to restrain ourselves. To choose law over violence. The ambassador tried to speak, but Sarah was not finished. You have a choice. You can join us, follow our laws, embrace peace, or you can believe that might makes right, that conquest is natural, that war is glorious. She gestured to the screen, still showing the aftermath of the war. But if you choose violence, if you attack civilians, if you commit atrocities, then you will learn what humanity learned 5,000 years ago and has never forgotten. War is hell. And we are very, very good at it. The Draxel ambassador looked around the chamber. Every species was watching him, waiting. He began, then stopped. Started again. We choose peace, Sarah nodded. Good. Welcome to the Galactic Council. We are glad to have you. Later, walking back to her quarters, Sarah felt tired. So tired. This was her life now. Not diplomacy as she had dreamed it, but something harder. Something necessary. She stopped at a window overlooking the station. Ships from 100 species, trading, talking, living together in peace.